Hello and welcome to Productively Mindful. My name is ailandas.sulcas and I talk about everything mindfulness and spirituality several times a week. So if that's something that you're interested in, something that you think you might find value in, make sure you click subscribe and hit that notification button so you know when I release the next video and join this wonderful community that we have here. What I want to talk about today is not some sort of a deep introspective kind of topics that I usually talk about in terms of mindfulness and spirituality. I want to talk about something that is personal. The reason why I want to talk about something that is personal is because I hope that my story will inspire somebody to change their lives the way I have, from who I was to who I am today. I was predominantly raised by my nan. My parents are very much in my life now, but at the time, as I was maturing, I didn't have my parents with me most of the time. But granted, they were doing their best, their best that they could with what they had. So from the age of 6, I was doing freestyle wrestling, and I was quite good at it. I achieved quite a few things. I was top 5 in Europe and top 10 in the world when I was in my peak, and I was in the list to participate in the 2012 Olympics, which was the year when I moved from where I was born, which is Lithuania, to the UK to study at university. Unfortunately, in 2012, what I also had is not one of my, but the worst injury of my professional wrestling career, which was dislocation of my left knee. My ACL and PCL tore, my meniscus ruptured. My knee was absolutely buggered. So it took me a very long time to rehab from that, and I missed the opportunity to participate in the preliminary competitions to be able to participate in 2012 Olympics. But it is what it is. I attribute so much of my success in my life to the fact that I was able to do wrestling for such a long time, because it gave me immense discipline, consistency, just drive to better myself. Those qualities alone, not just to better myself, but those qualities alone are really, really important and valuable to everyone and anyone you can think of, really. So I'm very grateful for that. I grew up very much with the mindset of a fighter, I guess, that I need to fight. I need to really fight for everything that I want to achieve in my life. I need to work really, really hard. I need to make sure that I'm the best, and not just in terms of fighting, but in terms of the phone that I have, the clothes that I have, the way I present myself. I always felt like I needed to be the best, and I always felt like I am the best. I always had the superiority kind of sense within me that I was just better than anyone else. I could never get sick. I could never have like any problems, any trauma, any mental health issues, just nothing. I was just untouchable. I was the best at everything that I was doing or decided to do. One thing that was massive that I got from that lifestyle in Lithuania when I was growing up is I had consistency. Well, one thing, two things: consistency and discipline. Those were the driving forces that got me through all the way up until my late teens in my life, because I had a very specific routine, very specific habit set that I was following every single day, and it was working for me really well. I managed to do quite well in school. I managed to do really well in wrestling. But one thing that I never had is freedom, in a sense. I always craved it. I always wanted to explore and see things and experience things. I always craved it, but that sense of discipline and consistency, which is really good, was preventing me from doing that, amongst other things. Like I grew up in a extremely poor family, so I never really had a chance to explore much or see things, but regardless. So when I moved to the UK to study at university, I chose economics. So when I moved, obviously my parents, my guardians, weren't there anymore. So I had all of this freedom to do whatever the hell I wanted, in my mind anyway. Not necessarily the case, because obviously my tuition fees were being paid for via loans. So I was borrowing money from the government to be able to study at the university. But that did not mean anything to me at the time, because I instantly got a sense of freedom, and it all went downhill from there. Within a couple of months, I got into thousands of debt. I dropped out of university within 6 months. I eventually got a job, which was a 0-hour contract, meaning I barely got any work hours. And instead of asking for more hours or asking for more work, I was just chilling and hoping that I would just get more hours. So I was just literally not a single care in the world. Another thing that also happened, because I had that freedom, I discovered substance abuse. I abused alcohol. I abused weed. I abused pretty strong substances, which were really bad. I was really, really addicted to them. And I really struggled with my life at that point. It was probably one of the most difficult points in my life that I really struggled to get out of. Eventually, I managed to get myself out of it because I just realized that I was completely wasting my life because of these substances, because I was just not looking after myself, not looking after my future. I was getting depressed. I was getting stressed. I was just in a very bad place. So I just radically changed everything about what was happening at the time with my life by simply making a choice. I just made a choice that I'm going to do something about my life and get better. So I did. I worked really hard to get myself out of that position. So I managed to quit drugs. I managed to get into a accountancy apprenticeship. From there, I managed to get a chartered qualification in accountancy, which obviously brought me a lot of financial well-being. I worked in some massive companies as a head of finance, financial controller, fund manager. I did some really high caliber jobs. But one thing that was reoccurring is that I was still chasing something that was never giving me gratification, never giving me fulfillment, never giving me happiness. And I went back to drugs. Now, I didn't abuse hardcore drugs anymore, but I went back to weed, and I was smoking it pretty much every single day for years, for a very long time, until I discovered psilocybin. I don't endorse anybody doing this, but I experimented with it a lot because it gave me a very different perspective towards life. It showed me things that almost were behind this curtain that was slowly getting pushed to the side, and I was seeing more and more and more what's behind the curtain. The curtain being this world that we were raised to believe to be the reality that we're supposed to experience, this objective world of objects, monetary gratification, external resources of fulfillment. But the more I was experimenting with psilocybin, the more I was going through this societal path towards joy and fulfillment, the more I realized that everything that I experience is fleeting. It's like I'm trying to chase this temporary gratification from life by stressing myself out, by not having any time for myself, by trying to create this master of masks to be able to fit everybody's perception of who I am. I was never really authentic to who I was, to who I truly was deep within, that I have not discovered for a very long time. Only when I started looking at psilocybin that I started rediscovering, actually just discovering my true self. It was a massive shifting point in my life, because I was starting to notice that there's a more fundamental nature to reality that we are conditioned to believe. Everything that we are conditioned to believe is a way to control us, and it's very, very good. It is very, very elaborate how it has been constructed, the way our society works. And it works, don't get me wrong, it works, because we wouldn't have developed as a species, but if it works, it does not mean that it could not work better. I guess an indication of that is looking at older civilizations like Egyptians or the Aztecs or or even the Romans. None of them had these fancy technological advances that we had today, and yet it seems like they were capable of doing things that we have no idea how to do this in this day. And I personally believe it's because they were so in touch with who they truly are deep within, their spiritual selves, that they discovered a more fundamental nature of existence that they were able to utilize to create more advanced things, advanced in a different sense, advanced in a more human sense, in a more nature-based sense. We were more in touch with the actual fabric of reality as opposed to this object-based subjective experience of what reality is. So I started looking into self-development. I started reading all these books about self-development, and I got the urge to try and find out if there's more to life than I have experienced so far. So, like I said, I started looking into self-development quite a lot, and then I went to visit my parents for Christmas. And I haven't seen my dad in a very long time, but when I saw him at Christmas, I've noticed that he has changed a lot. He was a completely different person to how he was approaching life, how he was approaching his relationship with mom, and I was really like mega surprised how that changed so unexpectedly, so unpredictably, I guess. And I wanted to find out why. How did that happen? And it was a very simple solution to all of his problems. He started meditating. He got into spirituality and started meditating. He was listening to spiritual teachers that he resonated with, and he was meditating religiously every single day, several times a day, and he just completely changed to a person that I want to hang around with all the time, from a person that I was avoiding as much as I could. He was showing me results of meditation as well, physical results, because he was supposed to be on lifelong liver medication. And simply through the practices of meditation, nothing else, he wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary. He managed to get off the medication because his liver was repairing itself. His eyesight was getting better. His physical capabilities were getting better. He was working out more, even though he has a lot of physical ailments. He was just getting better and better and better. And that really inspired me to really delve deep into the spirituality world and find out how I can help myself and then help other people. Even though I was still practicing the right thing, I was very early in my practice, so I still wanted money. I still wanted the objects that will make me happier, the things, the items, right? So I thought, right, what could I do to be able to gain a lot of money very fast? So I looked into coaching. I did this very expensive course in coaching. I got certified and qualified as a coach. And I was like, right, that's it. That's my calling. Now I'm going to make thousands upon thousands coaching people on how to be productive, develop good habits, develop good routines. And I was working really hard. I was making videos, making social media content, posting on my account every single day. But I was just getting sapped of energy. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. This feels so purposeless. I knew that the purpose of why I was doing this is to get more money, but money is such a waste of purpose. So I decided that my purpose in my life is going to be content every single day, to be content with life every single day. And the more I was delving deeper into the spirituality work, the more I realized that, as a matter of fact, what I should be doing is not coaching people how to be more productive, how to develop better habits and routines, but I should guide people towards a more fulfilling life, a less stressful life, a life without anxiety, a life without depression, a life with fulfillment, contentment, happiness, and joy. I wanted to show people and teach people how practicing something that's widely considered as immense woo-woo could actually fundamentally change your perspective of reality for the better. So much so that it has physical changes to you. Changes like you start producing endocannabinoids, which is the only internal neurotransmitter that connects to the cannabinoid receptors. The only other thing that does connect to the cannabinoid receptors is weed. And for a very long time, we thought that we had no use of those receptors except for weed. But through the work of Sadhguru, he managed to prove that we produce neurotransmitters that connect to those cannabinoid receptors, and they're called endocannabinoids. And they get produced as a result of intense practices of mindfulness and spirituality. The endocannabinoid production can increase so much that it becomes about 70% stronger than orgasms. So it's very, very immensely powerful. And then there's also changes to things like our telomeres being the ends of our chromosomes. The telomere shortening is an indication of our aging. Intense practices of mindfulness and spirituality have been shown to increase the length of the telomeres or even slow down the shortening of those telomeres, meaning it slows down aging. It promotes body repair. So it's not just woo-woo. It's not just this random thing. And it connects us so deeply with the very fabric of nature, the very basis of who we are, that it allows our body to finally take a breath and repair itself, repair our mind, repair our bodies. The more I got into this practice, the more I realized that all this thinking that's happening in my mind, all this chatter, is my strongest tool, making a tool of me. My strongest tool, being my mind, keeps telling me that I have to buy this thing, I have to earn this much money, I have to look this way, I have to speak this way, I have to present myself in certain ways in front of every single pair of eyes that's looking at me. It was pushing away all of my authenticity, and that was all because I became a tool of my mind. All this perpetual chatter that happens in our minds is just unnecessary brain activity, fluff that we associate ourselves so strongly with that we cannot help but be drowned in that chatter and consider it normal because it happens all the time. Everybody has it, meaning it's normal. It's not. It's an inefficient way of thinking. It's an inefficient way of using your brain. All of that thinking, it doesn't come from nothing. It comes from energy. And we get energy from food, from drink. So you're utilizing so much energy for that perpetual chatter in your mind because you believe so strongly. The more you believe it, the more you attach yourself to it, the more it's going to happen. So my message to you with this video is this, and I hope it comes across nicely, is that if for whatever reason living a conventional life that society deems normal makes you feel stressed, makes you feel unfulfilled, makes you feel like happiness, joy, and fulfillment are fleeting. You don't have contentment with your life every single day. You feel like there's something missing and you cannot quench that feeling of missingness. You're not alone. And I bet that the majority of people probably feel the same to some degree. If it's deemed as normal by everybody else, it does not mean that it is normal. It is so easy to follow everybody else, but it is so difficult to follow yourself. It's also so difficult to discover yourself. But I just want to stress the importance of the fact that spirituality and mindfulness is not some sort of a voodoo spirit hunting, talking to these deities approach that's gonna make you go schizophrenic and weird or something. It's not. And it is very difficult to believe unless you've seen somebody fundamentally change their lives using these practices. It is the very foundation of what reality is, of how everything has been structured. Everything is just an expression of consciousness expressed on a scale of complexity. Some objects being more complex than the others, and that is it. Everything is one, everything is conscious. And without practicing it, it's very hard to believe. So I hope you found use from this video. I hope it inspires you to try and look into spirituality and try and overcome the issues that plague our society, everything from mental health to stress, anxiety, unfulfillment, everything can be sorted with this. And if this is something that you're interested in, if you want to have a taste of what it feels like to be on a spiritual path, on a spiritual journey, I do offer a free 1-hour conversation with me with no strings attached. If you want to have a chat with a mindfulness and spirituality guide, click on the link tree below. That link tree is going to have a link to book a free 1-hour conversation with me. Then we'll have a chat and I'll explain to you a different perspective to life, perhaps a perspective that you have never have experienced. But I promise you that perspective will make a lot of sense. It will feel very real once I explain it to you. If you found this video useful, make sure to click like, comment, share, subscribe. Let's have a discussion underneath the comments. Do you resonate with what I said? Do you don't resonate with what I said? I'm always eager to learn and have a conversation with you guys. I absolutely love my community. This has been ailandas.sulcas from Productively Mindful. I love you all. And I will speak to you very soon. Goodbye.